While you guys are finishing up getting your lunch. First of all, I would like to congratulate Keesick Park, Gabrielle Briggs, and Deanna Jones for winning third place honors in the Best Practices Competition in Social Networking at the regional meeting this past week. I would also like to give a huge thank you to Tina and Michael Justin Clark for being such fabulous support and coaches for us while we were there. So thank you guys very, very much. We appreciate it. I also have a few other announcements to make. If you have not picked up your Beta Alpha Psi Polo, Keesick has those with him today, so please make sure to do that. Also, if you had signed up for the Girl Scout cookie quote-unquote audit on a weekend shift, they are only Monday through Friday, so we've had to take the Saturday and Sunday shifts off. So please take a look at that and see if you can sign up for an additional one. If you are hurting for community service points, you can do 2 shifts for that to get you a total of 6 community service points. Any more shifts than that, they would love to have you, but you're on your own point-wise. Also, the Admirals hockey game is tomorrow night. Nicole has tickets for that, so please see her so you can get those. The VSCPA Scholarship Awards, their scholarships are due on April 1st, and there are quite a variety of them. I'm sure they talked to you about them last week, but if you aren't aware of what they are, please visit their website and you can see them from there, and the applications are due by Sunday, which is April 1st.
April Fool's.
It is April Fool's. Also, the Etiquette Dinner is now open for registration, and that is on Thursday, April 12th, and that will be a non-meeting professional point as well. Back Connect, many of you have already gone on and signed up as a Beta Alpha Psi member for our chapter. You get a non-meeting professional point for that as well, which connects you to all Beta Alpha Psi chapters currently nationally. In the next few months it'll be internationally as well. And if you haven't already signed up for Relay for Life, please make sure that you do that as soon as possible, because that's coming up in the next couple of weeks also. On your agenda, on the back of it, is a point sheet for where we stand this far in the semester. We only have a few weeks left, so I'm not sure if there will be things added to it or not, but that's where we stand for now and the events that I know of that are coming up. The Beta Alpha Psi Banquet will be on May 9th, which hopefully works for everybody. It's a Wednesday night, and it's after graduation but before summer school starts. So we're hoping that we can get as many of you there, as well as it's a good time for industry people to be there as well. More details on that will be forthcoming in the next couple of weeks. Most of those will come via email. The next 2 meetings that we have are joint meetings with other groups. Next week is the AmeriGroup with the MBA Association. The week after that is a joint meeting with the Finance Club. So we won't be meeting like this again until our last meeting of the semester, which is April 19th. Does anybody have any questions at this time in regards to any of those announcements? Just want to remind you that we are still looking for officers and chairs for next semester. Guys, this is a really great opportunity to get involved in your chapter and to get involved in the university. I know we've had a lot of fun doing it this year, and we really encourage you to do so as well. Not only does it look really good on your resume when you're going to look for a job, but it also shows your leadership skills. You get to grow your leadership skills, and you also get to meet a lot of people and do a lot of networking opportunities here in this area as well as other areas for those of you who may be looking to move. You know, we went to regionals this past weekend and met folks from Northern Virginia, so those of you who don't want to move far, we met people from New York, Price Waterhouse, Ernst & Young, firms that we don't necessarily see here in this area, and those are the types of opportunities that you get if you choose to be an officer. Not to mention, if there are anything that you are not, too thrilled with the way our chapter does things, you actually have a say in how to fix that or how to change it. So please consider being an officer. If you have questions, you can ask any of us. Amy?
The etiquette dinner's canceled, just so you know.
Okay. Apparently the etiquette dinner is canceled. But yeah, so if you guys are interested in being an officer, please let one of us know as soon as possible, because we do need to get elections underway so that we can work with you, so we don't just throw you to the wolves next year. So, all right, any other questions?
All right.
All right, then, oh, sorry. Professor Spurrier has a few words that he would like to say.
Kissick, would you come here, please? Deanna and Deck. I just wanted to let you all know what these guys did. They went up there to New York and competed with the top schools in New York. And I'm talking about some heavy hitters up there. And they came in third. And they were way outside of their comfort zone when they did this, okay? You know how you all like to be in your comfort zone? These guys were way outside of it, and they did an excellent job. You would be so proud of them. From where they started, at the beginning of February, we had to get together an abstract, and then they got in the February 24th, I think, they said that they could compete. And then they had to come together with a program, and they had less than a month to do it. And they practiced, and they spent a lot of time. By the way, it was 9 hours on the train up, 9 hours on the train back. So it's not like it was all fun and games. They did. And they if you saw them practice, if you saw where they came from and where they ended up, it was amazing. What they did, I know they were nervous as heck before they did it, but I mean, they stepped right up and they did what they had to do. It was amazing. And I think that that's really what this club is all about, and what a university education is all about, doing stuff like that you normally wouldn't do. So, I mean, give these guys a huge round of applause there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Spurrier. All right, without further ado, Matt is unable to join us today as he is accepting a scholarship award, so we're very happy for him. So Dan Jeffries is actually going to introduce our speaker for today.
Well, good afternoon. Like I said, Matt is unable to join us because he's off getting an award. Go figure, it's Matt. So it is my great pleasure to be able to introduce our guest speaker for today, Mr. Chris Neighbor. Now, Chris started his illustrious career not as an accountant, but as a Marine. And, after serving 5 years with the Corps, he moved on and started his educational training with Roanoke College. He graduated in 1991 with a bachelor's in criminal justice with a minor in accounting. Right out of college, he started looking for jobs, and he decided to end up going with the IRS. Now, he started off as a collections officer where he served until 1998. From there, he moved up to their appeals division where he helped mediate disputes between taxpayers and the IRS. Now, as a side note, in talking to the standards involved with working for an organization like the IRS, of the 20 people that started on the same day as Chris, he and 2 others are the only people that are still there. So, I think that speaks a great deal to his work ethic and his abilities. In 2001, he moved on and joined the Communications and Liaison Division of the IRS. He was pretty much instrumental in working with the National Tax Forums and serving as a liaison between the Commissioner of the IRS and the professional taxpayers community. Now, Chris was really involved in this National Tax Form product. He pretty much modernized the program as we know it today. He established the formatting, and he helped automate the way CPA credits are awarded. So in 2009, he and his family relocated down to Richmond and joined the Stakeholder Partnerships Education and Communications Unit, SPEC. That is a mouthful. They serve all of Virginia and West Virginia, and Chris currently serves as their territory manager. So, without further ado, please join me in a warm welcome for our guest speaker, Mr. Chris Neighbor.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thanks for having me here. I was here back in August at a Virginia CPA Society meeting in this very room. So as Dan was escorting me and we walked through the door, it was just a real deja vu. And how this all came about, my being here, I think sort of came about by a contact I have with Dr. Megan Burnham, who works closely with the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance program. Is anybody here a volunteer with the VITA program, by any chance? Okay, well, that's fine. I'll make a little bit of a pitch later on. Dan gave a great introduction, and, he's right. Stakeholder partnerships, education, and communication is a mouthful, but basically what it all boils down to is within the part of the IRS that deals with individual taxpayers, not small businesses, not large corporations or exempt entities, but strictly with individual taxpayers, which is everybody in this room, your parents, your grandmother, your gardener, if you have one, anybody that is employed in the United States is a taxpayer. So that is the population, that I work with. That is my clientele. And the main thing that I do within, the Wage and Investment Division, of which SPEC is a part of it, is I've got two main jobs. Go out to events like this and encourage organizations that are involved in accounting and taxes. And as a sub-part of that, I also go out to organizations that have questions about, tax issues that relate to individual taxpayers. Many of those situations are rather tense. Back in November, I attended a meeting that had, how many of you have heard the name of the organization that's been in the news a lot lately, the disreputable tax preparer firm here? Okay. So,
No money.
there you go. I'm not allowed to say the name, but somebody else can. As far back as November, I was part of discussions with previous clients of that organization that had had issues from the prior year. So when this year, when things ramped up, I wasn't the least bit surprised. And actually, as that was breaking big in late January, early February, because of a little bit of my involvement with that, from the prior year and stuff like that. Even though in the press there's a little bit of a slow motion train wreck, the video of clients rushing into the corporate headquarters and ransacking the office and virtually writing their own checks and stuff like that. That was really bad, and that actually gave the IRS and tax administration as a whole a black eye. But my having the ear to the ground actually helped with some of the other components of the investigation on the back end. So that part of my job is sort of the eyes and ears of what's going on in Virginia and West Virginia, and just sort of relaying to other parts of the IRS what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. So outreach is part of what I do, and then another part that I have is working with the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, which is an effort by the IRS to offer free tax filing opportunities for what we call moderate income individuals. These VITA programs are sponsored and managed not by IRS employees, but by community organizations, churches, banks, libraries. The organization called AARP is involved, county governments. They're all involved, and rather than the IRS setting up a table and having a line form for IRS people to actually sit down and prepare returns, we work with this organization, these organizations that provide 88,000 volunteers across the country, and all of those organizations offer free tax preparation services. And does anybody have a guess at what the value of preparing a tax return is? Like the average amount that it would cost an individual to have a return prepared? Anybody want to take a guess? Well, yeah, I heard 150, 375, really close, $292. So when an individual goes into a pay preparer's office, and you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with going to a pay preparer. I mean, many people need that level of expertise, but for an individual taxpayer to spend $292 to go in and do something that can be, you know, they could do it in half an hour if they had the tools to do it, or they could go into a Vita site and have it done for free. You know, most of the time they're in and out in an hour, you know, with the refund electronically filed, and you know, they're very happy. So, but part of my role with Vita is not only, you know, recruiting new partners, like maybe I'm trying to do today, and you know, working with the organizations, but it's also, I'm the oversight watchdog. Last month, I was given a plane ticket. I flew to Billings, Montana for a week, and I pretended to be a taxpayer at 7 or 8 different Vita locations in the state of Montana. You know, and I probably do not even look like I'm from Montana, you know, which is a tip-off. You know, but my job was to observe how these Vita sites are being operated. I have a scenario where I talk about, oh, you know, I have a father, you know, that's bedridden, and I want to prepare his return too. You know, all these little wrinkly scenarios where I make sure, you know, that each of the Vita sites that are, you know, overseen by the IRS are adhering to the same basic standards that any paid tax preparer's office would adhere to. And it's very challenging, and you know, the good news is, you know, virtually all the Vita sites, you know, in America do meet, you know, very, very high standards. You know, ethical conduct, you know, accuracy, all the things that you would expect from a tax preparer, the Vita sites, you know, maintain. Every once in a while, we get a rogue volunteer or a community organization that just does not put their best foot forward with sponsoring, you know, the Vita program. And I had that happen in West Virginia last year, about a year ago. A volunteer was working with a taxpayer. The taxpayer was unfortunately one of my counterparts, probably from Billings, Montana, you know, that came to West Virginia to do some oversight of our operations. And the quote-unquote taxpayer said, oh, by the way, I had $10,000 of business income, but that was all cash, so you know, don't worry about it. And the volunteer said, oh, okay, yeah, we won't worry about that. Well, that in and of itself right there is fraud and unethical behavior. So we have to make sure that we have our eyes and ears out there to nip any of that behavior in the bud, because the last thing that I want as a territory manager in Virginia and West Virginia is for the front page of the Norfolk newspaper or Richmond newspaper or Fairfax, Virginia newspaper to say, volunteer income tax assistance, you know, is it worth the price? You know, question mark. You know, so part of my job is to market Vita, make it exciting, make people want to go there, but keep it out of the front page of the headlines. Because, you know, especially in the DC suburbs, if Congress gets wind of that, then they're going to say, well, let's shut the program down. So that's sort of what I do in my day job. And you know, as Matt and Dan, you know, were briefing me, they also wanted me to talk about some jobs, you know, within the IRS that you know, how you can go, you know, get a entry level professional level job. But are there any questions? I mean, and feel free to interrupt me at any point if anybody has any questions. Yes, ma'am.
I know here in Hampton Roads and also in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the Vita program is run through the United Way. Is that not typical throughout the country?
That is very typical, where usually what happens is the United Way is the glue that holds together a loose coalition of unrelated organizations. For instance, here in the Norfolk area, we have the Southampton Roads EITC Coalition, which the United Way of Southampton Roads is the funder. They pretty much manage all the activities. but it consists of the Virginia Beach Department of Social Services, Norfolk Workforce Development Centers, some faith-based organizations and things like that. So that's exactly correct. But let's face it, the United Way, has its own agenda, at times. So we don't put all of our eggs in one basket, working strictly with one organization. Like with any portfolio, you want to be diversified. So last week I was at Norfolk State University for a faith-based conference, trying to create relationships with pastors and priests of churches up and down the East Coast and things like that. So the last thing I want to do is go to bed at night, wondering what happened if the United Way disappears tomorrow, or what happens if Catholic Charities disappears next week. I want a well-rounded group of partners that I can work with and better the life of the folks in the community. Good question. All right. So I've got a list of some of the jobs and a little bit of description of what they do. These are professional level jobs where they usually require at minimum a minor in accounting. Some, especially the revenue agent position and CI agent position we'll talk about, pretty much require a degree in accounting, and in some cases professional degrees. A tax examiner. When you send off your tax return to the service center, or when you hit transmit, to file your return electronically, it goes through some checks and balances, and you get your refund, hopefully within, 10 to 14 days, maybe 21 days. But then the return is still subject to review, post-filing review by a tax examiner. And so these employees are at IRS service centers, and there's an algebraic equation that is set where every morning a tax examiner comes in and they've got 15 or 20 names and returns waiting for them to go through. And these folks are highly skilled, and the more senior individuals may work very, very complicated 1040s. The junior ones work very basic 1040s, but they're trained. They take a look at the return, and they're looking for anomalies, and they're looking for anything that might be open for interpretation and or unreported, such as the home office expense. People that use a room in their home as a home office, and they write off a portion of their mortgage for business purposes. That's one of the red flags. And they just do a lot of document matching. And they'll take a look at the W-2s the taxpayer provided, and they'll take a look at the W-2 that the employer provides. Every once in a while, there'll be a disconnect. But these folks, they have, they look at a return in 15 or 20 minutes, and just by looking at it, they can determine, well, do we want to question the taxpayer about it, or is this a good return? If there's a question with the return that the person can identify specifically, then the IRS sends out what we call a CP 2000 notice. That's the most common notice that anybody gets from the IRS, and it starts off nice and friendly, but then, we have noticed a discrepancy in your tax return. And oftentimes it's, we've got a 1099 from